drugs, let's be honest, drugs, food. We don't stress a lot about training, it seems like. It seems like that's like the last thing people think about.
I think that the vast majority of people, they jump on this kind of, well, so-and-so is doing this, or this is trendy.
Data is a piece of the puzzle. I will actually say I disagree with what the research says.
You're Between Two Dumbbells. Today we're going to be discussing our favorite training splits. Which training split would be best for you to grow more muscle? Do you respond better to higher frequency, lower frequency? Intensity? Training too hard? Not training hard enough? We're going to cover that and more as we deep dive into the minutia in this episode of Between Two Dumbbells. I'm your host, Skip Hill, and I'm bringing over 40 years of bodybuilding experience to the table, including over 24 years of online coaching. I'm joined today, as usual, the educated meathead, Dr. Marv.
Howdy.
I'm going to take the posit if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. Let's rock and roll.
I posit that most people follow a bro split, and their training split isn't optimized to their needs. I think, I know, right? I have a couple training splits that I come back to and have for years. I think they're great. I don't think a training split needs to be changed up. I think exercises need to be changed up. I think intensity, volume, all this. But training splits have, in my opinion, kind of a individual, they're very, very individual to the point where there can be so many other things that we change, but that training split doesn't have to change. I sometimes have clients who'll be like, man, I just want to mix it up a little bit. I want to change it up. And my first question is, why? There are so many other things that you can change. You can change the intensity levels. You can change your rep tempo. You can change the exercises, the sequence of the exercises, your rep ranges. But that training split, and we're going to get into this pretty good, and I think it's going to make a lot more sense. I think that the vast majority of people, they jump on this kind of, well, so-and-so is doing this, or this is trendy. This is going to matter. This is going to change things. I'm going to start growing. But I think there's a lot more to the training split than most people think as far as how muscle groups fit together, as far as that type of sequence, whether it's just optimal, not optimal. And it doesn't have anything to do with how you're actually training. What say you?
Yeah. Well, also, what really drives what's popular, what the current Mr. Olympia is doing, right? That's why we go through phases of high volume, high intensity. Like that's going to cycle through, right? And then when you get freaks like Ronnie Coleman, where you try to do high intensity, high volume, it doesn't work very well for people. And they realize, yeah, I shouldn't train like that. But yeah, I think everybody gravitates. What blows my mind is, I have patients come in and they're gen pop, right? They're just working out for fitness, some sort of health. They're not bodybuilders. And they're like, yeah, I'm training shoulders today. I'm like, what do you mean? Just shoulders? Yeah, just shoulders. I'm like, why? So yeah, I think we put so much stress in this world, in the world of competitive bodybuilding, on, drugs, let's be honest, drugs, food. We don't stress a lot about training, it seems like. It seems like that's like the last thing people think about. I personally like changing training splits just because I like, making things complicated, not just to make them complicated, but just I love training and writing programming and pushing myself to find different combinations. What you kind of brushed over is if you're tired of doing the same old workout, reverse the order of exercises.
Right.
It's an entirely different workout.
Well, there's so many other things that we can change. I mean, does the body really adapt? This is a question that I throw at my clients. Does the body really see the different, like you're training chest on a Monday instead of a Thursday? Is that some kind of new stimulus? It's not. It's the same thing. You may have skip loaded, or you may have had higher calories over the weekend from a cheat meal or anything else. But that doesn't change the stimulus that you're providing for the muscle. So I just think it's a really good topic because, again, the programming or the sequence of kind of how those workouts fit together, I think is important. And it comes down to obviously optimization. But I think once people settle in and they've got a handful of years under their belt, they should have a pretty good idea of how those muscle groups fit together with an outline for the week. I know it's not always set up as a week, but it's an easy way to, easy way to relate to the discussion of this type of topic. So yeah, I could throw out my best, like what I think is my best training split. I have two. I could throw out one. I could get, your feedback too, but I can.
Well, real quickly, let's talk about what the research says with, in particular, frequency, right? Because
Okay. All right.
I like higher frequencies for most people. And the bro split's jokingly called the pro split, and that's what people do because that's what most pro bodybuilders do. Just remember, they are different than us. They also have so much muscle mass and are training so hard. They might need 6 full days after their chest day to recover. Right. So we've talked about how studies have limitations. Just a reminder of the 20 most cited strength and conditioning meta-analysis, 85% of them have statistical errors. So data is a piece of the puzzle. It shouldn't be the whole puzzle. And I will actually say I disagree with what the research says from an anecdotal experience. So the research says in terms of hypertrophy, so long as volume's equated for, there doesn't seem to be a difference if you train a muscle once a week or 3 times per week.
Okay. I like that because honestly, I was going to try to shoot it down. When you were talking about the research, I'm like, I've got 41 years of research training myself and thousands of other people. I'm like, but yet again, we have to factor these things in: the intensity, the frequency, and the volume. Like I've always said, it's those 3 equalizer buttons that you have to play with to find that balance that works for you. But then on top of that, it's like, oh, maybe I need a fresh approach because I'm just really tired of training chest and shoulders and I want to train back and chest. And look, sometimes those things can refresh our brain. There can be an advantage there. Okay, cool. But then you go and you make that training split. I know I've done it myself. Even after so many years, I'll make that split change just because I'm like, I've been on this for a while. And inevitably what happens is I end up only lasting 2 or 3 weeks on it because I'm like, you know what? I know this doesn't work because I've tried it before and I don't like the sequence. So you end up coming back to it. Now, I'm not saying that you should shelf things and never come back to them. What I'm saying is once you get that training split fit and it fits and it works for you, it's easier to leave that variable alone and change all the other variables that you have that really do directly impact, I think more so, your growth and your progress.
Yeah.
And I would also go so far as to say this. Even though a lot of people can train more frequently, they might be able to train muscle group 2 or 3 times a week, the vast majority of people are not going to get away with that. Unless, obviously it comes back to other variables. You maybe don't train as hard. You're newer to the gym. So if you're newer to the gym, you're not able to create the intensity right out of the gates for those first handful of years. You might think so. You see the intensity going up and mind muscle connection is getting better. But if you can fast forward 3 years, you would see that your intensity level is higher. And if you fast forward another 5 years, just forever, my training intensity is higher now than it was 15 years ago. And you think, oh, you can't train as heavy. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about intensity and be able to psychologically tolerate that level of intensity. So those variables are changing all the time. Why not keep something like a split? Why not keep that variable constant once you get it to fit and it works and leave it alone? Change the other things.
Okay. Yeah, I like changing splits. Again, because of the programming challenge, also pairing different joints. So joint wear and tear, I'm a little bit more concerned about that than you are. So that is cool. And that, we do have a difference.
Maybe not in the sense that, and here's because I agree with you about the joint wear and tear. But once they get fit, and we'll get into this a little bit more as we're going through the splits, but once we get into and I'm able to explain why I have this muscle group after this muscle group, but not after this one, it comes back sometimes too. What do those joints feel like? level of fatigue, things of that nature. So we may be on the same page and have some parallels, and then there'll be other things that we do disagree with, and you're like, this is why I do this. So it makes sense. It makes sense. And there isn't one avenue with a bro split to get to the top of the mountain. There's not one street to get to your destination, all that sort of thing. So we're providing the listeners, I think, with a lot of tools to be able to, we're not going to hand them a bro split and go, or a split and go, hey, this is what you need to do. We're explaining our splits and the reasoning behind it so that the viewers can take that away and go, okay, I need to look at this a little bit closer. Oh, yeah, that happened with me. You know, I agree with what Dr. Marv says. That Skip guy, he's just full of shit. It could happen.
Yeah. Checks in the mail. Thank you. I will say though, like the higher frequencies, you know, might allow for, well, not might, they will. They do allow for higher intensity for each session, right? If you're doing 20 sets for a body part, I could train a hell of a lot harder if I'm only doing 10 twice a week than 20 in all one session.
Oh, sure.
I think we both agree 20 sets for one body part is overkill unless you are 5 reps in reserve. To each their own. If that's your training style, that's fine. As we age, you actually should be training more frequently just because your muscle protein synthesis, say that 5 times fast, right? The machinery will not stay on as active. That's why that study came out in senior citizens. They actually grow more muscle if they take NSAIDs, right? Where you and I, it would blunt hypertrophy, but in them, it maximizes it. So there's that to keep in mind. But I just think the higher frequencies allow for higher training stimulus. Now that's for hypertrophy. For strength, it's pretty clear that higher frequency allows for greater strength gains. Well, again, because you're not beating yourself up, you're more fresh. Ideally, especially one study, it said for women and children in particular, higher load multi-set 3 times a week seem to be the sweet spot for them. Now, again, that is pure strength, not hypertrophy. What was interesting is in one of these, it said that periodized training definitely impacts strength, but it doesn't impact hypertrophy, which I was like, interesting. But again, they are not doing this on 15, 20, 30, 35 years of training experience, right? So we have to take that with a grain of salt. But I think it makes sense on paper. Like, what do the world's smartest strongmen do? They're rarely training to failure. They're training 3 to 4 weeks max, and then they deload. Well, that's totally different, right? But it just goes to show, again, you have all these equalizers like you talk about, and you can pick and choose. So that's just a quick thing on that. I will say the American College of Sports Medicine recommends for, this is Gen Pop, training major muscle groups 2 to 3 times a week, right? And that split routines and higher frequencies, 4 to 6 days a week of training, which I disagree with the 6. For advanced might be better, but that's just what their general consensus is.
Yeah, and those are general broad terms for essentially the layman. So I'm gonna, again, I always say I think I'm representative of the viewers a lot of the times. So I tend to think that the viewer is going, I'm not average. I'm not the layman. I want to get huge. And I think that's you're showing the contrast between strength and hypertrophy training, which I think is incredibly important. I know a thing or two about training, but I built a reputation in the bodybuilding industry for removing skin. If you have too much skin, call me. Remember, skin is overrated. I think a lot of us, vast majority of us, look at it and go, well, strength and hypertrophy are 50-50. They're related. So if I'm going to get stronger, because we're kind of programmed or have been programmed a long time with a lot of these training methodologies where focus on the logbook, focus on the strength, focus on getting stronger, and you're going to get bigger. Within bodybuilding rep ranges, there's truth to that. But the problem with that ideology is that then we walk away thinking if we're not increasing strength, we're not getting bigger. And no. And I've tried to make this point before where I contrast bodybuilders with powerlifters. Powerlifters are not more muscular than bodybuilders as a rule, but they are bigger. They're not as lean, but they're bigger. And I get that. So I think it's important for people to note that. Plus, the other thing I want to ask is real quick before we move on is, you said senior demographic or senior citizens when it comes to frequency. I mean, How do we define that? Because I mean, I'm
So
55. Am I a senior
yeah,
citizen, or do you have to be in a nursing
so
home?
you've got 5 more years before you are considered an older demographic. And what was hilarious, the term they used, the acronym was OG. They literally used OG
Okay, I'm going to
as
quit
this
using
is the
that
group.
label.
Yeah, but I thought that was hilarious. I was like, okay, that's awesome that they did that.
Yeah.
But that was that one study, right? But it makes sense. Like we know that like your protein demands go up to trigger muscle protein synthesis as we age. So there's that just to keep in mind.
Right.
But again, you are not the average 55-year-old by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, apparently, I've only got 5 years before I'm going to be drooling on myself in a nursing home and smelling of urine, basically.
Start picking out your little things that hang from your cane. What bling you're going to use.
Nice. Appreciate that. Okay, from there, I want to get into this training splits if you're good with that. So I'm gonna take my favorite one, and I'll be honest, I use it right now. And before anybody calls me out on this, whether it's a client or someone who's worked with me in the past, this is not part of the team skip training protocol. Please don't expect that I'm going to use the team skip training protocol black and white as it stands for the next 20 years or the last 20 years.
Yep.
That protocol is different than what I do sometimes. Do I come back to it? Of course I do. And I also have individualized where the team skip protocol that is put out there that people know and have used is specific to what they need, or it's the general version that is published on Elite FTS, or that I have spoken about, in the team skip training protocol video. This is not that. Parallels, but it's not that split.
Gotcha.
I love me a 4-day-a-week workout schedule. That I'm just speaking personally now. I'm not speaking about clients or anything. I'm speaking personally based on what I've trained over 40 years. And the vast majority of the last 15, maybe almost 20 years, this has been the schedule. The 4 days a week has worked really well for me. Why, Skip? Because I don't have great recovery, whether I'm on gear or off gear. I am not blessed with great recovery ability. We can talk about the variables, whether the 3, intensity, frequency, and volume, but I'm not going to dig into that. I'm just going to tell you what the split is, and then I'm going to work my way through and explain it. 4 days a week. What does it look like? It's on the screen. Chest, front delts, and calves on the first day. I know. I'm that guy. I'm the chest guy on Monday that everyone blasts. Oh, it's official chest day. You know what? I don't give a shit what you think. I mean, at the bottom, at the end of the day, I don't care. That's how I open. And there's a reason, and I'll get to it. The next day is back, rear delts, and abs. And then I take a rest the next day. I don't like or prefer, in my experience, to train over 2 days in a row because it starts to beat me down. So why do you not do back on Monday? Why do you do chest? There's a reason for that. And this is what I want to get into and what I want to explain that I want people to pay attention to when they put together their own split. I will not train chest the day after back, but I will train back the day after chest. Why? Because when I train chest, I will notice there's a lot of back involvement, stabilizing, for pressing, things like that. There's just a lot of work being done there. So if I do back the day before chest, I'm going in with a sore back, a arguably weaker back because it's been trained the day before. The energy expenditure, I think we could all agree, is likely going to be higher on back day than it is on chest day. So I leave back for the second day for those reasons, and also because the day following is a complete rest day. So by the time, say, Thursday rolls around, and it doesn't have to be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 days a week, but that's how I do it. And I'll explain the other option here in just a minute. So I come back Thursday after the rest day, and I hit legs and calves. Oh my goodness, that's 3 days in. You're doing that on a Thursday. Yes. Now, for me, chest is arguably, well, chest and back are both weak, if I'm being honest. They both need to come up. But because of that sequence, anytime, and I've tried it, to do back on Mondays and then come to chest on Tuesday, it's just not going to work. It's not going to be optimal. They don't fit together well. Why do I do front delts after chest? I'm backing up for just a minute because I don't want to miss anything. Front delts after chest are easy for me because front delts are already warm. They are being utilized quite a bit while training chest. So it doesn't take me 20 minutes to warm them up, get my rotators all, nice and loose and ready to go. They're just ready to go. So 10 minutes, arguably, to do 3 sets of working sets of front delts is a lot easier than the warm up and the time involved and all that good stuff, training front delts on their own day. Rear delts, same thing. They're ready to go after back. They're warm. They're ready to go. So I get to my leg day. That's typical, but I do it later in the week for this reason. But there is one more. Remember, I have a history of lower back issues. Now, I've been injury free for 9 years. I have no vulnerability right now, but it's in the back of my mind. So I don't want to come in on a Monday when I have done a skip load day on Sunday and I'm not full bellied, but I'm holding more water. I'm heavier. I don't want to leverage my lower back against my fullness, in my stomach that following day. That to me would be adding or taking a risk or gambling when I don't want to do that. By Thursday, it's just a non-issue and I don't even have to question it. Last day, side delts and arms. Arms are arguably my best body part. They're not awesome, but they tend to grow easier than anything else I've ever done. And some people think, oh, it must be cool to be blessed with having better arms. No, it's really not, because what do? We look at our weaknesses. So I'm constantly looking at my back and my side delts and my chest going, man, I sure wish I had more size there. Anyway, I finish the week with the arms, and I'm not even going to talk about abs and calves because I'm not saying they're not important, but they can be sprinkled in. Train them hard, put them in a couple times a week, you're good to go. Side delts are a priority for me. Why are they at the end of the week? Because I'm not going to hit side delts and then go try to train chest and anything. I want them at the end of the week. I'm going to nail them and then get into buys and tries. And I'm still going to hit arms hard. But you know what? If I let's say I'm dieting and I'm running low on energy, I'm not too worried about it at the end of the week. I tend to rest Saturdays and Sundays. I like the 2 days in a row. A lot of people don't. If you don't, then take one of those rest days on the Friday, train side delts and arms on Saturday, and then take the rest day on Sunday. That's my breakdown. Go ahead, throw it under the bus, rip it apart. What do you think?
So a lot of stuff I like. We've got a couple differences. I don't do a lot of direct front delt work other than like overhead pressing, but it makes sense because I think, at least for the few people I still work with, their front delts are growing just fine from all pressing and overhead. But if you do want to work on it, that makes sense. Proper back training, you're getting your rear delts anyway. So I always throw rear delts on back day. Where we vary the most is you're doing, the lateral shoulder later in the week, to where if it was me and it was an area of focus, I want it the first body part after a long weekend. I want you training it first before anything else. But on that day, you do side delts and then you do your arms, right? So it's still first in the workout on that last day. That's what you do, correct?
Yes. But I'm also assuming, I think we can both assume, there's still going to be some indirect work being done on the chest and back day too for the side delt. It's not direct work. I admit that. But yet it's still being worked in there a little bit. So that's another reason that I keep those two far apart. So also, then I can come back to it.
Yeah. Also, you don't train when the average person's awake, so it doesn't matter you're training chest on International Chest Day. True. I purposely do not program chest on Mondays because I'm not going to want myself or the people following my programs to fight for that.
Right.
I don't train on Mondays anymore. When I did, I'd always do legs because the leg equipment's usually empty on Mondays. It's freaking awesome.
Yes, it is.
So I like that. But your chest and back thing makes sense. And if you shouldn't be like sore in your back following chest day, but when you're warming up on back the day after, you should know that your back got a little bit of stimulus the day before, in my mind.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
It shouldn't be excessive,
right?
But like, it's mind blowing how many incredibly strong people I work with. They're benching, females benching almost 300 pounds drug free, and I'm like, let's engage your lats. And then they're like, oh, I'm like, how are you this strong and you're not even using your back on a bench? Like, it's remarkable.
Yeah.
So like, we just assume you see somebody super strong. I can't tell you how many strong people I've had to teach how to create upper back tension getting under a bar in a barbell squat, and they're squatting 500, 600, 700 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you're not using your lat. Like, so your back should be getting worked a lot on chest day. That's why we're going a little far ahead, but before every chest workout, both myself and I program face pulls, because you're getting all that musculature warmed up.
Yeah.
We've talked about it. Your infraspinatus is the most active rotator cuff when you're pressing. So I like warming that up, right? Even though it's not a traditional like push movement, I still think that's really very valuable. You have your warm-ups we've talked about.
Yep.
So that's what I think of that. I would personally put shoulders on the Monday. I do like your waiting for distension to go down for legs with your injury history, because I think most people go, oh, I'm full as a brick, you know what, house. Let's take advantage of leverages, which can be good, but there's such a psychological component to injury that you've done such a good job getting over, because I know what that's like. Like, I still have not done a DC set of straight-legged calves on the calf I tore over a year ago, because I'm still like, I'll do seated all day, but I still haven't done that. And that was over a year ago. So I like your reasoning for that. And I really like your chest back thing. So I think that was good to put on people's radar.
2 things real quick. Yep. If I train back the day before chest, I will inevitably, while I'm doing dumbbell presses, especially an incline, doesn't have to be a high incline. There are times where I might have to end the set because I feel like I'm going to cramp in the middle of my back. And that is not a feeling.
But that's telling you you're using your back correctly.
It is.
People have never experienced that. You look at your pressing mechanics.
Sure. But then once you realize that, then you go, okay, I don't like the sequence. I'm flipping it because I never get that when I'm training. When I train back, I don't go, oh man, when I train back, my chest is kind of fatigued and it's getting in the way of me training back. You get what I'm saying? The second one is very important too. You can say brick shit house. It's okay. You can say brick shit house. Anyway, what go to one of your splits, unless you want me to go to the rotation one that I have.
Yeah, no, I'll go to one of mine. So I mean, if you said, Dr. Marv, what's your favorite split of all time? DC two-way, but that's boring. But that is my favorite. I am the same though. 4 days a maximum of lifting. I will not program. The only time I've ever done 5 in probably the last 5 years was contest prep from somebody. And that 5th day was like BFR, like so light. It was just, they had this mental hang up. So it was a glorified workout. But I'm with you. 3 to 4 days max of lifting. We know I'm always going to have my 1 day of HIIT cardio and non-traditional core movements, because I think that is so damn important to build resiliency in multiple directions. So I pulled 2 programs for my website, shameless plug, that are not traditional body part splits. So I'll do my volume reps and reserve program that I did make it through 1 training cycle and hated it, but I did put significant size on. Day 1 is upper pull, and then I always have 2 rotations of every day. So the first week you would then add direct bicep work. The second week you would not do bicep work, you would add direct tricep work. So that would vary between the 2 weeks. Then, and I typically program low intensity steady state cardio on Mondays, because I train both days, Saturday, Sunday. So I do that as restorative for the central nervous system, blood flow, blah, blah, blah. Then I train on Tuesday. Then I do HIIT cardio and core Wednesday, another training session Thursday. In this split, it was legs plus 1 shoulder movement, typically lateral, because I think most people need more lateral head for the width.
Before or after legs?
Is it a lagging body part?
Gotcha.
So if you need to bring it up, that is first. If it's strong like me, it's towards the end. And then I always do calves first. So we need to talk about calves because you and I are different. I always go, you're training your calves first, and then you are warming up the rest of your body. So let's put a pin in that, because you had said something in a voice memo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then Friday's off. So date night with the lady. Most people don't want to be training on Fridays, so Friday's off. Then Saturday for this program would be chest and RDLs. with doing a face pull. So that's a little bit different pairing. And then Sunday would be shoulders, arms, and calves. So hitting calves at least twice. I always do calves first, and I have, it's the one time I want static stretching. So stretch out each calf and Achilles for 20 seconds, 3 to 5 times. Then do your warm-up sets. I'm a 1 set to failure for calves type guy. So either DC calves, where it's a 5-second negative, 15-second stretch. So you're counting reps on your fingers because it's a 4-minute set, or 2-second hold, 4-second negative, 4-second stretch. But I am 1 set only because you're going till the wheels fall off, and that much loaded stretching. I don't think you need a hell of a lot more. And playing around with more than that, people would develop some Achilles tendinopathy issues, right? Because that's just a lot there. And that is that. But I am big on whatever you need to bring up, or you're notorious for skipping, which is most people calves and core. I am doing that early on. So calves is always first, then go warm up hips and the rest of your body. And then I have, when you're warming up for your first set of the day, you're doing core work in between. Because at least I am always like, I'll do it at the end. No, I'm going to go. So I skip them. So I force people to do them first.
I can't do the core training in between. My brain, that's just a me thing. I understand that it's a good idea. And on paper, for those who don't want to do it at the end, I think it's a great idea.
You strong. We have really good research doing that changes athletic performance. So it could be as wild as you do statically loaded core work. It increases punching strength.
Performance chiropractic and sports medicine in the Houston Bay area, telemedicine and nutrition coaching all over Texas. And if you're not in Texas, don't worry. You still do consults through the educatedmeathead.com. We also find workout programs, seminar recordings, and online courses.
If you do dynamic core work, it increases the speed of how quickly somebody could throw a second punch.
Okay.
So it just shows like there's all this wild stuff. I will say, whenever somebody's working on the bracing that I'm teaching, the DNS style bracing, I have them rehearse it on purpose, doing planks, suitcase carries, or Pallof presses, it's called proximal trunk stability, increases how well, getting this active, my core active, will help your limbs move better and you'll be stronger, right? Because you've got everything firing. So I would play devil's advocate of maybe you only do like a front plank or a Pallof press, right? Not like ab crunches, but some sort of core rigidity to kind of activate that musculature and then do your stuff. I would respectfully challenge you to play around with just 2 or 3 sets only, nothing crazy, and see what you think. I think you'll notice a difference. So that's where I stand on with calves, but you're different, Skip. You were telling me on a voice memo you don't like calves that way.
Yeah, I'm a little bit. I did back in the day. I did back in the day when I was normal and I didn't have this knee injury still in my brain that I was trying to compartmentalize. So my pre-leg workout is my stretching to open everything up. And then I go into the backward treadmill for 5 minutes to get primarily the anterior portion of my knee, because I had articular cartilage issues, warmed up, almost a little bit of a pump. Then I go to the stationary bike for 2.5 to 3 minutes. And I take that intensity up, not necessarily hit, but I take it up over the 2.5, 3 minutes, get a little bit of a pump in my quads. And then I'm going directly to my first quad workout, or my first quad exercise. I'm sorry. So that I could do the calves first and then do the warm up, but, and the other thing is my calves are pretty good.
Yeah, so you have cows already, so you don't need as much to maintain. I am obsessed with large calves because my in-laws all have cows, so I've been trying to catch up.
That's the only reason. I want to be clear on that, because I do side with you on that. I think that calves should be trained first. They help to warm up the lower leg. Remember, people who don't know, they should know, because Marv has explained this over many, many times. The calf isn't just about the ankle flexion. It's also knee flexion in hamstring work. So you're getting that all warmed up on the back of the knee as well. And you're getting that blood to the lower limb. And if it's passing the upper limb, then there has to be a benefit there. So I am on your side 100% with that. It's just that my specific situation is just a little bit different. Otherwise, I would do that.
Okay.
And how hard can you hit your calves after legs anyway? I mean, you're shaking. There's not much there.
Correct.
You know,
and whenever somebody wanted to try out to be my training partner, you better believe we did DC calves first. And I had 3 people quit and say, I'm no longer interested. I was like, cool, don't waste my time. So
now
there's that.
I'm going to take the reins again, just to come back to my second favorite split, which is it's very similar to my first split.
Okay.
The difference is I'm increasing frequency by doing only a couple things differently.
Okay.
I'm still training 4 days a week, but I'm going to change the rotation so that I'm not training each muscle group once a week. I'm going to train, and it'll make sense when you're able to see this on the screen. Every third week, what you train on Monday will get trained on Friday. So I have a 3-day rotation that looks like this. And I'm going with push legs pull or push pull legs because I like that. I think that even though it's considered a bro split, it has stood the test of time because it still is a very good, logical approach to keep recovery optimized. On the days that you're pushing, you come back the next day, you're doing your pull. You're not getting in the way of the muscles that you're training. You're training them indirectly, but you're not getting in the way of that recovery. And the same thing with legs. And I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of CNS and the different types of overtraining and everything else. That's for a different show. But this push-pull works very well.
We've talked about that, by the way,
exactly.
on the Dory and Yates episode.
Yep, absolutely. So what you're doing, to make it clear, is you're training 4 days a week, but it's only a 3-day rotation. So Monday workout 1, Tuesday workout 2, Wednesday workout 3, and then Friday is workout 1 again. That means the next week starts with workout 2, and then it goes to 3, and it starts again with workout 1 on Thursday. That rotation takes 3 weeks to get through, and then it repeats itself. So you're not training everything once a week. You're training, say, if you're doing push legs pull, you're training push twice a week for the first week. The second week, you're training legs twice a week. And then the third week, you're hitting all your pull exercises twice a week as well. So you get the twice a week component, but it's not weekly. And for someone like myself who doesn't have great recovery anyway, whether I'm on cycle, whether I'm not on cycle, it's just a really good combination, because then you don't go, much like I would, go straight into an overtraining dive, falling off a cliff after 2 to 3 weeks. Now, I can talk about the cruise and everything else, the deload being on the 6th week, but that is for another episode as well. Those are my 2 main training splits that I think 98% of people could take and use some variation of those 2 splits and do incredibly well with for a long period of time.
So I swear, listeners, we didn't plan this. My second split that I did is the same thing. It's 3 days and you just hit it twice again on the 4th day. We're trying to be different, but I split it up differently. So this is my load and pump program. I will say on this program, the rules are, so long as the actual joints in your feet don't hurt, you're training calves. So that's literally written out. That's when I was obsessed with getting cows, trying to catch up to you. And
calves recover relatively quickly.
Yeah. And again, it's 1 all-out set, and I'm alternating between straight leg and seated. I don't do both in the same workout, even if you're only training calves twice in a week. So I alternate, right? Because we've talked about the importance of the soleus for blood pressure, Alzheimer's. Yes, that's a real thing, folks. So this one is load and pump, meaning, and this is what I'm gravitating more towards, is 1 week is progressive overload. We're doing my cluster sets. We're doing my metronome. We're going to failure. No, I don't believe in partials or Skip's favorite. Then the second week is volume pump sets, no metronome, higher reps, 20 reps, get as much blood in. So I really like that opposing thing, because mentally I still get my, off, doing my progressive overload, my metronome, and then I'm taking a little bit easier, being a gym bro, getting as much blood in the muscle. Those exercises vary dramatically, while the progressive overload is a strict 2-workout progression. So for that one, I split the body up and I actually wrote this for my longest standing client who had horrible back issues. This could not sit down in a chair for more than 20 minutes when I first met him. And he was my first patient in outpatient clinic in Cairo school.
Oh,
so
okay.
I've known him since 2019. He worked at the front desk. And I was like, dude, why are you always like crooked? So anyways, pretty wild. So we found that chest, biceps, and hams was day 1. Then of course hit cardio and core day 2. Then back, shoulder, and tris. Then the last day was quads, glutes, and adductors, with the caveat you're doing a bunch of light leg curls to get blood in the hamstrings, create leverages, allow you to get out of the squat pattern, warm your knees up. So that worked incredibly well by splitting up spinal loading for him. And then I actually started doing that program myself and really liked it because it's different, right? Chest day is already going to be getting some tricep work. So now you're doing biceps. And then on back day, you're getting biceps. So it's a novel way to almost increase your arm stimulus without having a dedicated arm day. So that's why I like that. So long as people's elbows do well with it. I had one person whose elbows, but they had existing issues. I will say last gem, I am now having folks, if you have elbow issues, do blood flow restriction first and then do your normal push-pull workout. And elbow pain is 0. And that's everything from the current Masters Nationals strongman champion to bodybuilders. Also, it's pretty wicked then going to your pressing or pulling movements with your arms already full. So that's a fun thing to do. But that's my second day.
It wasn't the same though. We had some parallels there, but you are changing up the arm day to. It is funny though, and I'll tell you what it says to the viewers. We're on the same page. We have slight differences, but we're on the same page without even meaning to be on the same page. So what does that say?
Trying to be different.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what does that say? So there is the fact that we're not radically different and we have completely opposed beliefs on, each other's training. I still think the metronome is not fun, but I do understand why it's there. I totally get it. I just have to pull back my OCD-ness because I'm like, I'm not OCD like Dr. Marv. I'm OCD, but there are clearly different levels of OCD. And some people may well think, oh man, that's the answer to controlling these variables. And I get that. It's just not my answer. On that note, I think that the viewers have a takeaway here. I think they have, Skip gave a couple options. Yeah. Marv gave a couple options. Yeah. That second option lines up. There's a lot of parallels, but there's still some differences in there. So I want to hear, I assume you do too, in the comment section, who's nuts? What are you going to use? Or if you change your split,
I want to hear how correct I am.
Dr. Marv is right. I'm right. We'll see. We'll see. We'll hear about it in the comments. I'm going to find out if I'm dumb or not.
It's not one body part per day. I don't think neither of us agree in that, believe in that at all. So.
Only one time do I think that can be beneficial, and that is if you are really low on energy while you're in a deficit, especially for a show. Then I will pull away and I'll add an extra day, and you think, the last thing I want to do is add an extra day of training, but it allows me to pull away some of that work from the other days so that I can put it on that 5th day. I would rather do this. The lesser of the evils.
Correct. But once again, what did I say? If I do 5 days, it's only in contest prep. So there's another parallel. And
Absolutely.
It's a glorified day, but so awesome.
You know what time it is? I get so excited. It's time for the Dr. Marv's Prehab Rehab Rodeo Roundup. Woohoo! Bring out Dr. Marv on the horse. Oh, I love this. I love the intro. I love seeing that every week.
Chris is killing it. Chris is killing it. So this actually is a listener question. So double whammy. This was a good one. So this will be really the only time we're going to talk about this subject. So this is from ZR24. Said, would love to hear Dr. Marv's discuss hypothetically how to manage scar tissue from medication, as he touched on this episode. Perhaps muscles that should or shouldn't be used for certain reasons of that muscle type, movement, use of certain muscles. Any suggestions from his standpoint would be interesting. I'm not going to do which muscles you should use, but we can talk about potential soft tissue for densification, because as we talked about in the don't tear your muscles episode, certain studies even said, hey, scar tissue from intramuscular injections increased tear rates. Off the top of my head, I believe it was the deltoid and the triceps in particular that I noted, which was interesting for researchers to specifically say that, because usually they don't like talking about that topic. So, and I will say anecdotally, I know I will speak in I statements. If I am not working on glutes, getting that scar tissue moving, I will have, and I've had a lot of people have referring knee pain, and it feels like your knee is about to explode. And it's typically when you've been sitting for a long period of time. It seems like driving in a car seems to exacerbate it.
Exacerbate.
Right, yeah.
Exacerbate. That's all right.
Dumb smart guy.
I am exasperated. Yes. That you did not get exacerbated. Correct.
Okay, there we go. As soon as I said, I was like, oh, God. Okay.
Right.
Just underhand pitch to Skip. But so glutes refer to the knees. Like, it's pretty, there's no studies on that, or at least that I could find, but anecdotally, it's there. So what the hell's happening? So you have something, at first is densification, then it can turn to scar tissue. And we're trying to avoid it from getting to scar tissue, but there's caveats, because sometimes you do not want to break it down. So there will be times where you've got to go get imaging, and you might need medical like intervention, like pharmaceutical or even surgical. But tissue densification, and I'm just going to read the notes I put so I get it right, is after an intramuscular injection is when inflammation and injury causes the muscle and surrounding connective tissue to become thicker and less flexible. Over time, if the injury and inflammation persist, these changes can progress to the formation of actual scar tissue via the principle of fibrosis, which replaces normal muscle with tough, non-functional tissue. Scar tissue is weaker than healthy tissue. So it reduces tensile strength. The exact numbers, instead of 4.5 to 10 newtons per mil, whatever that terminology is. So instead of 4.5 to 10, scar tissue is as low as 3.3, right?
Okay.
So that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
That's why it increases your injury risk. So there's a couple things that might help. Mechanical interventions might, but if it's really bad and it's like irreversible scar formation, you have to get pharmaceutical intervention, surgical. They might be using a laser to cut it out. You don't want it to get there. So we can, and a lot of the research is on burn victims, so we take that with a grain of salt, right? So it's not an exact thing, because again, they're not going to study this for the average person. But it does seem that scar massage and manual therapy can help. There's a couple studies on screen. Something called microneedling might be able to help. And then stretching and physical therapy, basically movement.
Okay.
I think vibration and foam rollers can be helpful. Now, I wouldn't personally do that the day of an administration, because remember, it's forming a depot in your muscle, and your body's supposed to slowly break that down. And if you're aggressively working on that area, you'll break it down quicker.
Correct.
So then levels will spike, which sounds great on paper, but you don't want these random crazy fluctuations. But we have to be careful, because it could also be a protective mechanism. So they're called granulomas, and most people in the sport, if they get imaging, they're going to have a bunch of little circles in their glute tissue, and those are granulomas. They're called injection granulomas, or diabetics have them in their abdomen. So, and remember, this could be any medication, right? So we're kind of speaking vaguely. So that is your body's attempt to protect itself. So again, I'm just going to read it to make sure I get this correct. So an injection depot develops into a granuloma when the injected material persists at the site and cannot be cleared by local immune cells, triggering a chronic inflammatory response characterized by macrophage and giant, doesn't matter what that means. So what promotes granuloma formation at an injection depot? What's in it, right? So if there's impurities in it, your body's going to notice and try to protect it. Injection technique and location, and everybody's host immune response is different, right? Some people get crippling post-injection pain no matter what it is. Other people get zero.
Right.
Now, well, wouldn't I want to break it down, because your body's encapsulating it with a hard surface? Usually this is palpable, right? So normally there's times where I do have special dry needles for my really big power lifters and bodybuilders and strongmen. partially because their muscle's so dense, but two, if there's somebody who's been hitting their glutes all the time, that tissue is going to be harder. It's going to need a thicker needle to break through. But if I'm feeling, if it's super tender and it's rock hard, I am not going through that, because that most likely is a granuloma.
Right.
So mechanical breakdown is not recommended, because that could increase inflammation. It could cause tissue damage, and it actually could spread. So those little balls could all of a sudden develop like fingers and then start spreading all through tissue. That is a disaster, right? Like it's exactly what you would think about. Now you have this dense, non-functional masses inside your glute muscle or whatever muscle you're doing. That's how injury rates go through the roof. So if you believe you have a granuloma, you're getting imaging, and you are going to have to speak to a medical professional who specializes in that, because the last thing you want to do is start breaking that granuloma down. You can cause yourself to be very sick. You could damage the tissue further. So
what about sepsis?
Exactly.
I mean, it can happen, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So typically I go, hey, 2 or 3 days after, start with a massage gun, maybe some foam rolling, right? Getting ahead of it before it's too late is important. But if it's been years and you're just now hearing about it and you're getting that knee referral pain, it is possible to get it better with what I talked about. If I do not believe it's a granuloma, I will do dry needling in a very specific application, usually with E-stim. That way I don't have to sit there and piston the needle in and out to break it up. So you're doing that. Side note, you could also use dry needling in the similar fashion to actually get scar tissue from muscle tears to relax, to kind of fill in the dent a little bit on stage. That's pretty wild, but it is incredibly painful, to where if I have to do that on a stage competitor, I make sure they're the last patient of the day, because they're probably going to scream in pain the first few times we do it until we break that up. So that's incredibly painful. But a little bit of soft tissue work, foam roller, massage gun, yes, massage work, manual therapy on common injection sites is probably a good idea, but you're waiting 2 or 3 days. That way you're not artificially breaking that depot down. There's a story that I'm going to not say that my brain wants to, but I'll tell you off air. But that's what the research is clear. So you don't want to let it happen and get so bad to where you're having issues, but you've got to wait a couple days. And then if it's rock hard, and I know I'm being repetitive, you are not breaking that down, and you most likely should get imaging to see what it is. Because the last thing you want is now you have 5 or 6 granulomas in tissue. Remember, it's a protective mechanism. That tissue is going to get weaker. Your injury rate's going to go up. Plus, nothing's going to be worse than you do all this work to get super lean with shredded glutes, and now you've got freaking walnuts. Not the texture of walnuts we want with shredded glutes,
right, but
golf-sized balls, and it's from a shot that was, from 9 months ago.
Yeah. And for the record, I'll be transparent. I have one in each vastus lateralis that I've had forever. I did initially have had some work done, some soft tissue work to try to mess with them, but I stopped for 2 reasons. Number one, it wasn't getting any better, and I would feel nauseous afterwards.
Exactly. That's
and I just decided to leave it alone.
Yeah.
I just,
so you did the right move. You did the right move.
I actually did an MRI on my knee, and it came back that they thought that, because they didn't know, because they weren't looking for the upper vastus lateralis, but it happened to show up on the image, and they were concerned. At first, there was talk about me having a tumor. Like, I don't know. Is it maybe in the same spot that someone might do an intramuscular injection over and over for years?
Again, they don't think that way.
Exactly. And I get that. But to come at someone and start talking about a tumor when there weren't any questions, I mean, it was kind of an odd thing.
Correct.
Point is I leave them alone. I'm not messing with them. I'm just going to leave them there, because the alternative was not very fun, and it wasn't working very well. And I could have arguably opened a Pandora's box. They could have gotten really nasty.
Yep. So rotate through a little bit of tissue work. So hopefully that was helpful. That's about as in depth in that topic we will ever go. But because it's a common complaint, and I've had multiple people ask when I mentioned that, figure we should give the listeners what they want, but be responsible with the information we just shared.
Word. Skip's cheat meal review. It's cinnamon rolls. I'm still on the cinnamon rolls. We have number 2 coming up. What was number 3? The Hive in New York. Awesome, but more awesomer, because I can say that. I mean, it's our show. I can say whatever I want.
Yep.
When I write, I can make up words. 350 Bakery in Pittsburgh.
Like the number 350?
350, like 350 degrees is kind of what their logo is. They got the little degree mark there. But 350 Bakery in Pittsburgh. Now, for number 3, I'm going back to the Hive real quick because I want to make this contrast. The Hive, remember, I'm trying to help the viewers to be able to get these foods that, like if I go down the street and I have an awesome burger, I don't want to recommend that because you may not ever be in West Palm. So again, we're going back to Goldbelly. For those who don't know Goldbelly, they're the national distributor, kind of a middleman for all these awesome gourmet foods, restaurants, everything. A lot of restaurants and these foods are available on Goldbelly. They will be delivered to your front door. I always use the example of Cat's Deli in New York because anybody who's been to New York or is a New York native, New York City, they'll be like, if it's not Cat's Deli, it's, the pastrami isn't worth it, or, so Cat's Deli will deliver to your front door on Goldbelly. So Goldbelly is an option for the Hive. However, this is why I bring it up. It's not yet for 350 Bakery. So Skip, why are you using this example? Because there are a lot of bodybuilding shows in Pittsburgh, Masters Nationals, pro shows, North Americans, things like that. So if you're in Pittsburgh, I implore you to drive up the winding streets, follow the train. I think they call them trolleys, but to me it's a train because there's train tracks. I was going up the hill and I'm like, why are there train tracks in the middle of the road? Then when I came down after getting all my cinnamon rolls, I was following a train the entire time down laughing. I actually did a video. 350 Bakery. Now I have reached out to them and I have said, why do you not have your cinnamon rolls on Goldbelly? And they just laughed. They're like, yeah, that's on our list. We want to do that, but we're not there yet. They're not they're not to the point where they can handle, they don't feel that they can handle that national attention. But I laughed and told them, you're getting way too much attention as it is now. And they're like, yeah, we love it, but you're right. So eventually they'll get there. They're not there yet. If you're in Pittsburgh, 350 Bakery, and you know what? Tell them Skip sent you. Maybe I'll get a free cinnamon roll. And it's not just the cinnamon rolls. This is important. They're sticky buns. I was like, I'll just get one because maybe it was arguably as good, if not better, than the cinnamon roll. What's the difference? Cinnamon roll has the frosting on top. The other one has kind of like nuts. I want to say pecans, but it could be walnuts. I can't remember that. But it's sticky because it's caramel covering or coating. And you got to warm it up a little bit. Well, you don't have to. It depends. Like with cookies, I don't like to warm them up. Some people do. With cinnamon rolls, warm them up. They just fall apart. And you're going to be like, wow. What's number 1? Can't tell you. Tell you on the next show, though.
Nice.
Q&A time. You got to.
Goldbelly's going to be dangerous for me.
You can get everything. Pecan pies. You can get, there's just so much there. Cookies, obviously. But meat will arrive on dry ice. Everything. You got a question?
Yeah, I do, but I am wearing this shirt on purpose. Because
bro, do you even lift?
Yep. I have officially done 4 workouts since stem cells, which is the most I've trained since March. Went and got a DEXA and an RMR this weekend. So far 4 easy sessions. I've only trained in my office or in my backyard. I have not trusted myself to go to a gym yet. Like, I am doing very little work. The heaviest thing I've lifted so far is just 275 pounds on a trap bar. Again, really light, just feeling it in. A lot of blood flow restriction. I will say my tolerance, some of my workouts are on screen right now. My working out tolerance is 0. Like, good Lord, I couldn't even finish blood flow restriction body weight. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I've lost the ability to push through that. So that'll be fun. But I am filling back out a little bit, which you could see on screen as well. That's the first workout, and that is taken during the 3rd workout.
That is pretty crazy. I mean, look, the viewers have to see that. And for those who don't know, it wasn't like you just like, oh, I just don't feel like training. I'm not going to train for a while. You had so many things that you were dealing with from the injuries and everything else, and just a loaded plate with so many irons in the fire. It was crazy. So for those who don't know, this isn't about not wanting to train. This is a forced layoff that you're coming back from, and you're being smart by breaking in slowly instead of coming into the gym and doing what most people do and just banging and clanging and then have to go to the hospital a week later because your kidneys aren't functioning correctly.
Exactly. Yep. So, yeah, I've never been so excited on workout 2 to do 4 sets of 10 push-ups from my knees out back. I was so excited. Half range of motion. So there's fun. DEXA. So I knew the DEXA. No, they are not perfect. I am made notes of how much fluid I intook, what time of day. Make sure the same person does it. Make sure it's the same machine. Is it, $150,000 proper medical grade machine where they require you to take off your wedding ring versus a $50,000 health spa clinic where they don't require to take off your ring? Like, there is differences. So DEXAs are not perfect, but I really like this company. So TBD, but I think there's going to be a collaboration coming out soon because I like how they're doing it. They're doing it the right way. And it's just good for information. Plus, it'll be fun to see. So I randomly got a DEXA in December. And at that time, I weighed 237. I ended up putting on about 10 more pounds. By the time I quit training earlier this year, that number on Sunday yesterday was just 188 total pounds of body weight. I must have dropped below 180 because I have put on significant from just 4 training sessions from glycogen and inflammation and water. Lean mass went from 199 to 160. Again, temporary. You could also play with that with water. And then body fat went from 12.4 down to 10.8. Which I must have been well below 8 for a while because I feel really out of shape. Again, we are our worst critic, and I know that's ridiculous, but for me, this is fluffy. So I must have been sitting at 8 for the majority of this year, and I'm never going to be that. I call them tools where, yeah, I'm 8%. I'm like, no, you're not. You're 15. Like, I will always overshoot. I will never be caught undershooting my body fat.
Right.
I would rather overshoot. And then I did a resting metabolic rate test just to see. That was just under 2,100 calories. I haven't had one done in a while, but when I was around 235, a little over a year ago, that was just under 3,600. So I've lost a bit because more muscle. But that 3,600 just to maintain, that's why I have to eat so damn much to grow at all. Because remember, I am a small human being normally. I weighed 155 pounds at the age of 22 when I found the gym. So I've had to fight. But there's my DEXA before and after. There's my starting. We talked about once a month, I'll do quick little updates of where I am at. Yep. I will be documenting it on YouTube, on Instagram. But I will say I got some DOMs going on in my chest right now. Every time I reach for my water, and I'm like, oh, I missed this.
That's what that
very
feels
exciting.
Like.
Yes. So very exciting. I don't think I'm going to go back to the gym until November. So I think I'm happy to do in office and in my backyard, limit myself. I'm still letting the stem cells do their thing. Still in a good amount of pain, but they did warn me your pain will probably go up. And typically the people who have the most pain do good, which is great because I've been getting woken up for the last 3 weeks from pain, and I'm trying to avoid like Aleve and stuff because I don't want to do anything to mess with the natural recovery. So
right.
There's been a handful of times I've reached for that, but for the most part, I'm just white knuckling it and getting through. But very exciting, and it'll be fun to see how this process goes.
Very cool. On that note, I think we got to get to getting.
Mm-hmm.
Skip and Dr. Marv splitting. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell. If you didn't, hit the bell anyway. Pretend you did. Like, subscribe, share, and it should sound a little something like this. Be sure to use the TrueNutrition.com link to save 10% on not just Team Skip protein, but every supplement they sell. You can reach out to Dr. Marv at theeducatedmeathead.com, and you can reach out to me at teamskip.com. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to click on this link for another episode of Between Two Dumbbells.